Hello, friends. Hope you all are fine. We are back again to this episode of ArtLit with our author Samiksha Khanduri, who is the author of Elevating Human Revolution and 30 Days with the Queen.
But before beginning today's session, let me tell you that ArtLit is an art and literary community that is a platform to bring stories of the storytellers, the artists, writers, and the literature enthusiasts. In this platform, we publish conversations and stories about people who have made significant contributions in the field of art and literature, no matter how big or small. So ArtLit invites and seeks stories in similar genre. If you would like to share your own story with us of someone you know, then please write to us at artlitcommunity@gmail.com or connect to us through our social handles, the links for which we have in the description box below.
So, Samiksha Khanduri is a believer in words she heard and the words she mints. Along with travel literature, she has taught communication and soft skills to university students, bringing stories from the real world to academia. She hails from the family of mountaineers and is often divided by her love for the Himalayas and her unplanned love for the City of Joy, Kolkata. She now resides in Kolkata with her husband, often debating on what is better, the sea or the mountains. Turns out that she has chosen both, all for the love for travel. So, welcome, Samiksha.
Thank you so much. That was a very warm welcome. Thank you.
Okay, so Samiksha, first of all, please tell us something about your writing journey so far. You had published your work quite long back, and how do you find yourself evolving as an author over all these years?
All right. To begin with, while I was graduating, that was back in 2011, I for the very first time that I thought I can write was I wrote a poem called Quest. So the poem was all about, being influenced by, it was a new journey. I was in Delhi all the way from Dehradun all by myself. And it was more like it was a quick and a very heavy escape from a small town to a metropolitan. So, coming from a smaller town, I think you're very sensitive to things around you. And when you see the fast paced, city life, you're like trying to catch up with so many emotions. So for me, my journey began there in Delhi, and I started writing a lot of poems. And Quest was the first poem that got published in the college magazine. So that was my takeaway that yes, I can write. And then came elevating human revolution, and it was all about my observations around the city. And how you as a child, you're very sensitive. Or 18, 19-year old is very sensitive to things around them. So I started maintaining a blog by the name of didacticblog.com, and from that blog, eventually over the 4 or 5 years, as I kept maintaining a journal of whatever I felt in that blog, I kind of picked up articles from the blog and published it as a part of my first book, which was Elevating Human Revolution. At that time, it was, just trying my hands at different things. So it was the first book that I published, and it was quite early. I was 19 years old. And I think it's been a long journey ever since. I've been writing for the last 8 years, as far as I remember. Yeah.
That's really interesting. And I would come back to you about your didactic blogs.
Yeah.
Because I can see, a kind of an element of didactism in your writing, like
Yeah.
how Bacon used to write. So, but before that, please tell us that how did you choose the title of your book, both your books, Elevating Human Revolution or 30 Days with the Queen? In your
So,
work, yeah, like in your work, Elevating Human Relation, was there an intention to elevate human consciousness through your work? And would you continue to write works that would contribute to serve the purpose of establishing a moral order or conduct through writing?
yeah, so at that point in life, so I also come from a family of practitioners of Buddhism. So there's a philosophy which originates in Japan, and the philosophy was given by a 12th century Buddhist philosopher who was Nichiren Daishonin, and it's a very well-renowned practice. By the philosophy is called the philosophy of Lotus Sutra. So it's like I was heavily influenced by that philosophy, and I was practicing for the last 5-6 years. And at that time, being didactic came naturally to me. The essential years of my growing up was all about Buddhism. And it was not just the philosophy that I learned, it was also that we used to practice it in real life. So we were supposed to, kind of understand and assimilate our ideas of the philosophy and, apply it in real life situations. So being heavily influenced by that, I realized that didactism was very naturally coming to my writing style as well, because it makes a part of your personality. But I feel Buddhism kind of developed me into the person I am till date. But elevating human revolution was essentially me being very concerned about the society. You're young in the heydays of your life. It's the peak of your youth. You see so many possibilities around you and so many troubles at the same time that you really want to change the world. You're like, let me, say this and let me be didactic,
Right.
and probably they'll be influenced. So that was the idea behind elevating human revolution, that I really wanted to elevate the human condition, at least in the psychological stance of it. So that was the first book that I published. When it comes to 30 Days with the Queen, it is much later in life, I think about 9 years later, that I published this work. And it had been a very long journey from teenage to, late 20s. And at that time, I was working with a travel agency for about 3-4 years. And I was traveling extensively. So I finally called off work and I took a 1 year break. And it was a target in my head that I wished to stay in a hill station for 30 days and, kind of be involved in whatever the mountain life offers. So I went in 2019 to a hill station called Mussoorie in Uttarakhand, and I stayed there for 30 days. I got myself enrolled as a volunteer teacher in a Tibetan school there. So I taught for 30 days there, and I was living all by myself. That freedom of your late 20s when you have everything available to you, the right resources also. So I kind of compiled the book as more like a diary entry, which eventually turned out to be the book. So it's 30 Days with the Queen because Mussoorie is called the Queen of Hills. So hence the name.
That's a very interesting title, actually. For a book.
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically, this Mussoorie book, which is on Mussoorie, 30 Days with the Queen, this is something which we'll talk about later in greater details, because that is something which is really, interesting, because when one travels by oneself, what are the, intricacies which one sees through. But before that, I'll just ask you one question about elevating human revolution. Is that you have used, quoted works from Alexander Pope and other classical writers as well. So how do you, is it a deliberate attempt to write like this, or you draw your inspiration from them? How about that?
Like I said, inspiration definitely, hence it becomes a part of your writing. And I feel writing is, it's not to be constructed. For me, writing has always been whatever comes to my mind, I have to jot it down. So less of filter for me, that's how it has always been ever since. So when it comes to philosophies, I'm a student of English literature and I was reading a lot. Like I said, you come from a small town and suddenly literature confronts you. It's the entire world is with you, right? So we were reading Western philosophies at that time, and yeah, it was heavy reading that we were, doing every day. So, like I said, practicing Buddhism became a part of my personality. So, reading literature was, it became a part of my writing personality. It was more like that. So we were reading all the Western philosophies from Bacon, Francis Bacon's essays to, any kind of Western philosophy. They have a very thin line. All the ideas are, deliberately taken from one idea to the other. So Western philosophies are connected. You can't say that, one ideology exactly confronts the other. It's more like it's an offspring of the other philosophy. So because I used so many philosophies in just one compilation, I feel it was more because I was becoming more accepting to different ideas. And it came from that rather than simply trying to, put different philosophies together. So I genuinely believed in what I wrote. And at that time, different philosophies made me feel that I was more secular towards ideas rather than being very rigid. So yeah, that was the whole idea.
Okay.
Yeah, that's really interesting to such, you have tried to bring so much diversity in terms of
Yeah.
philosophies and beliefs. So, Samiksha, tell us the beginning lines of your
Uh,
30
Your
days.
audio, your audio.
yeah.
Okay, am I audible?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So the holes on the bus driver's shirt allowed some air to keep fluttering within his lungs. Maybe it kept him moving. So these are the beginning lines of your book, 30 Days with the Queen, and denotes that mountains are not just a physical structure, it is more than that. So as a mountain girl, how do you connect with the bus driver's manifestation of mountain?
So while you were reading that, Zap, I'm in the bus. I'm easily transported by my own words. That's one
No.
thing. And it was more like it's a visual for me, which I've carried back in the book more like a memento from the mountains. The holes, specifically in a shirt, they were kind of so ventilated that his entire shirt was bloated like a balloon while we were, he was driving down. So it was a very I'm very impressionable to things, like maybe not in the way that maybe I'll be talking, but in the way I express in writing, I'm very impressionable. So if I see something, it remains in my mind, and that's how I kind of continue working on those ideas. So the holes in his shirt was so prominent because I was standing. I remember I didn't have a seat in the bus back then because it was all a rush of traveling, and I was standing in the bus and maneuvering through those mountain hairpin beds, and suddenly I see his shirt, and there are these very specific perforated say holes, and I'm like, wow, his shirt is living a good life in the mountains. So it was more like yeah, definitely, it was more
Really
like a
creative.
very happy vision for me. So the driver for me, he manifests a memory of mountains, which is just the beginning of an affair. That's more like something for me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very evident in your writing. Like while I was
Yeah.
reading the work, I could actually see through all the
Visual.
scenes.
Yeah.
I like that kind of writing.
Yeah. So in the same book, I think there is one more context that you have used, that you were, because you were living alone there, and you were traveling alone. So as young girls, like, we all have felt this, that we are little unsafe, and we are always little wary about people being extra nice to us without any context. So there is this book, instance in your book, that you have mentioned that while you were traveling and someone was being nice to you, and you were, that okay, this is a why is he being so good? So can you illustrate some of your experiences of traveling alone in the mountains, as well as if you've traveled in other places alone, you can share your experiences.
So for me, traveling in the cities has been more fearful than being in the mountains. I think it comes genetically. I feel safer there. And but yes, there's a lot of uncertainty as a female solo traveler. I think we all confront that daily. And in the cities as well, I think it stands the same. So like for this instance where you're talking about 30 days of the 30 days with the queen, this particular day when I didn't get any vehicle to commute to the school, I just thought I'll hitchhike, and I just just the first experiment ever, so I just did this sign on the road, and there was a fast moving vehicles in the mountains because they exactly know where the turns are. And for me it was all too baffling ki how are they driving in the mountains so fast. So uh, I remember it was raining heavily, and mountain rains are like there's no visibility. So I was wearing a raincoat, and it was half on my forehead, and barely being able to see the vehicles. I just stopped one passing by vehicle, and I said that, can you drop me to Happy Valley, and this person was a localite in all assumption because he was driving well. And the moment he stopped, the moment I shut the door, then the panic began. I had already checked off the fear of, taking a ride from someone, but the moment I sat inside, I felt, oh shit, this is lockdown. Okay, so there are times when I feel that a lot of things are mentally given to us, that we have to be fearful, we have to, kind of fear everything. So I think somewhere deep within, unconsciously, I ended up ticking off that I do not fear this list, and it happened as a consequence. So I think it was a big victory for me that day, that I safely hitchhiked and I was dropped at the right place, although the drive was very scary. But yeah, I feel that it's the same in the mountains as much as it is in the cities, because it's still uncertain, you just don't know.
Everywhere.
But I feel sometimes you have to trust your gut feeling and keep moving. That's how it works. Yeah.
I think we all can connect with what
Yeah,
Samiksha
yeah,
said
yeah.
Certainly.
right now, and also that part of moving from a smaller city to a metropolitan city. Like
Yeah.
this Simon is also from
Yeah,
India.
we
I am from
all are from
Mumbai,
small cities.
smaller cities, and this fear as a being a woman, I feel it's very
But I
commonly
think
felt.
one has to get out of the box sometimes,
Ah,
just to push yourself,
yeah,
because you can't constantly live in the fear of,
that's true.
being victimized.
That's very
Yeah.
great. So, Samiksha, there is a certain monotony of life in the mountains, as we were talking in smaller cities or small towns, so which is a prevalent motif in your book, 30 Days with the Queen. How do you design this intricately in your book?
So, in reference to monotony, that's what you refer to?
Yeah, I mean, you know, uh, yeah, because you belong to a smaller town and it's very evident, that monotony, very subtly you have tried to weave around and, bring it out, that monotony, whether it's in mountains or like, because your book is.
All right. So, I feel the monotony of existence is heavy in the mountains, because the smaller the town, the lesser the things to explore in terms of, here you can go out and watch a movie any time of the day.
Right.
There's just one theater in the mountains, that too, it's limited seating capacity. You think twice before going. But mountains offer a very beautiful monotony. It's like watching a plant bloom. So when you see the plants, see the sorry seeds in the plant for the plant to grow, it requires patience. So there's monotony of watering that plant every day. So every time you're watering it, you keep looking for the saplings. Have they come out? Have they done this? So I really relate with monotony in a way of growth. So mountains for me, and especially the kind of writing that has taken place in 30 days, I think it was more of monotony to make you understand that there's growth in monotony. Like one must look back and see. Like when I talk about a plant, just the joy of seeing a sapling is so beautiful because you watered it every day and been patient. Like I remember my dad telling he used to uproot the plants thinking it's not going to come out. So impatience, that's what cities teach us. But mountains for me, that sense of monotony taught me that it's beautiful. Look back, take time,
Yeah.
relax. So yes, the writing style has a lot of monotonous instances because I was living that daily routine, and certainly it was quite real. It was a diary entry. So I felt that I want to keep it as it is. I don't want to play with the rawness of that experience. So yeah, 30 days is all about monotony, and I loved it.
Actually,
Same
monotony.
here.
Uh,
So, Samiksha,
yeah.
you have, used another theory that habits make us evolve. So, what are the habits or habit which has evolved you as a person which you are today?
Okay. So in that case, I would say, I'm a very selective reader. I don't read anything that comes in front of me. But reading and writing goes parallel for me. So it's more like Aristotle once said that when you watch a great play, right? So when you're watching a wonderful play in front of you, the performance has to purgate you of certain emotions, right? So purgation was his catch. And I think
Yeah.
I've been purgating for too long. I think that's how I'll say that reading helps me purgate, writing helps me purgate. And that is, these are two habits which have constantly been in my life. And I just can't do without it. I just don't know how to function without reading or writing. So I think that's one habit that I can't get rid of. And of course, having a lot of me time. I have to be isolated. That's another habit I think we should all have. Like a bit of
Yeah,
self-love in isolation is so beautiful.
completely agree.
Yeah.
I can so relate to you in this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Well, just before you were saying about how monotony can be beautiful, mundaneness can be beautiful, because just ordinary can be extraordinary. So that was a
Absolutely.
very great thought. And,
Yeah.
I think artists can relate to that, slowing down
And I
and,
think it's beautiful also because you can see your growth. A lot of times
yeah,
we don't look back, right?
yeah, exactly.
So maybe I've been growing in the last 1 month and maybe I'm not acknowledging it. So
Yeah,
monotony helps me do that because you have nothing else to do. You'll think, did I do enough in all these months? And then you'll see that you've actually grown like a sapling.
exactly. This is a very good thought. When you see a sapling growing, you can actually learn a lot of things.
Absolutely.
Something impossible, something. Because when I started gardening, then that's when I understood, yes, if this is possible, if a sapling can come out, because I was not a gardener, so I can do anything
Yeah.
in my life.
It's so
You see
beautiful.
it.
I mean, it's the
Beautiful.
one of the greatest joys, the
Joy.
life itself, right?
So, Samiksha, you have talked about we all being a misfit. But today we see so many people, especially youngsters, try to fit in acceptance and approval. How shall we stick to continue being ourselves, being the imperfect misfit selves in the world full of boxes and judgments?
Hila, your voice is breaking. Can you repeat
Okay.
your question?
All right. So I just wanted to ask about, am I audible now?
Yeah, yeah, audible.
So I just wanted to ask about your idea of, how, this youngsters and human beings are seen many times, or they themselves feel that they are misfit in certain situations. So, and, which is very prevalent these days, especially, with youngsters. So, how shall we stick to continue being ourselves? That's what I wanted to ask, being the imperfect misfits in the world full of boxes and judgments.
I feel this is very important. You know, indifference backed up with self love. I think that's the key. Like, I'm not saying be ignorant, be
Yeah.
indifferent to opinions. Having taught kids for 2 years, I realized that, depression is a pandemic amongst youngsters. It's like a trend, it's like social media for them. And it's very sad because it is 10 years back. If I think of my school life or other things like that, there was no word like depression for us. And this I'm saying just in a decade. Imagine what our parents must be,
Yeah.
feeling, seeing them. But seeing people depressed at a very young age is horrifically sad. And
Yeah.
I think there comes the context of misfit. All of you can't, everybody together can't consider themselves misfit, right? So you have to kind of understand that being a misfit incorporates the idea of self love also. Agar every time you end up thinking that I'm a misfit, you have to tell yourself that there's this amount of self love at the same time, so that way you can be indifferent and love yourself at the same time. Because the only solution to depression, which is so rampant not only in young adults, I'm saying it matured adults as well, that there's a lack of self love, which is disheartening. Like you have to pat your back every time and say, oh, you're doing well. We keep on seeking it outside, and that's the problem. So being a misfit is perfect, I think. I enjoy being a misfit. Yeah.
Me too. Many times.
Think every
Yeah.
one of us is somewhere a misfit, very
Yeah.
unique self within, and we need to love that for sure. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it would be very difficult. So,
I think this feeling is like quite rampant among the artist community. They
of
Mm.
are like
course,
a
of
little bit
I
out
course.
mean,
of the
that's what
world.
makes them artists. Like, if you're not a misfit, how will you be an artist? It's perfect,
Yeah,
I think.
yeah.
Yeah. So there's one thing which connected me to my childhood in your book 30 Days with the Queen, is that there's a rat trap story which you have incorporated, which you were teaching to the kids. So you were comparing it to that kids wanted to go out and have fun in the open fields, but they are trapped in your classroom. So it's so beautifully intertwined in your classroom and in the book. So just wanted to ask that how do you take this story of rat trap in our post COVID world?
It reminds me of there's this play by Bernard Shaw. It's called Pygmalion, and if you've read it, the play talks about this flower seller girl who a professor tries to turn into an elite woman in the
Yeah.
society. So Shaw kind of brings her, to that gathering, and he tells her how to behave, how to conduct herself, and she has to attend this huge ball party. But eventually, Shaw also realizes that the girl is ending up being the same flower seller girl in her habits time and again. He has to remind her, and she's a young girl, can be trained and molded. So she kind of, presents herself at the party, and she's all good to go with. But the moment the party is over, she's back to her older self, right? So the whole point of what I felt in the mountains, especially, I was asked this question also in my interview while I was going for lectureship. That what do you feel? Because I had only taught in school until then. That what do you feel is the blockage for students in the mountains? And the same thing struck me. The same thing which happens in Pygmalion, that there's a glass ceiling above all of us, right? So especially middle class people and mountain people are not given those resources. So these students are like, they know that there is a Delhi university, they know there's a university in UK, London, wherever they can think of. But after a point, they'll be, saturated that, oh, we are short of resources, oh, we are short of something else. So they can see the stars, but they can't reach because there's a glass ceiling above them. And that is what I feel that we need to break after a certain time. And that is how I felt exactly in the post-COVID world, because the fear was still there, right? And it was like the house is your glass ceiling. Like you move out, you'll break your head. So constantly the fear of being confined to a space is very difficult for me to, as a person, to kind of digest. I enjoy my space, but I love the outdoors. So for me, being confined is the most difficult and the most tragic element in my life, if at all that is. Yeah.
So, Samiksha, like I realized that there is, as we were discussing before, that there is an element of didactism in your work. And at places, I felt that your writing was a little bit authoritative, telling the readers like this is how it is. And it reminded me somehow the essays of Bacon, because of its didactic element. And your writing is like more explicit and lucid rather than being at places I felt settled, especially your work elevating human revolution. So,
your voice is sometimes going up and sometimes going down. So can you check?
am I audible now?
Yeah.
You're
Or,
audible. I think the mic is going far and coming
Yeah.
near. So
okay,
probably.
okay. So I'll just continue. Let me know if the problem. Okay. So, is it okay now?
Yeah.
Better, I think, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I was just asking, like about, like I was curious to know, like about your writing style. So there is a passage where you have written about the conflict between the rich and the poor. That luxury can also be struggling. So I just wanted to know that whether you write with an intention to give a moral message, or you surely write for your pleasure, for creative or artistic pleasure.
Uh, for this, I would say that a lot of me has changed, because what you're telling me, the book is about 9 years behind what I am today. And like I said, I was heavily influenced by Buddhism. And Buddhism, the philosophy, if I can say that to you, that, like I said, it is the philosophy of Lotus Sutra. So as simple as, the lotus flower, it blooms in a ditch. The philosophy was the crux of Lord Buddha's ideas towards the end of his life. That is what the philosophy is all about. And he said that, like the lotus flower blooms in a pond which is filled with ditch and filth, your life can also bloom irrespective of your challenges or whatever you're surrounded by, be it a bad relationship or a poor karma, for that, for example. So the practice taught us that when you see people struggling, you got to tell them, like, you have to be authoritative. A good leader cannot be without authority. So you got to tell them that, the course of your life may be going wrong at this time, but it doesn't mean that there is no growth. In that wrong as well is your growth, right? So until you see, you, in order to influence and in order to affect someone, these are two different ideas. Influencing could be like you manipulate someone, but to affect someone through emotions, you got to be authoritative at the same time, because it doesn't work otherwise, right? So for me at that time, Buddhism was my guiding force. So whatever I wrote, I actually wrote in caps also. I was shocked to see that in the book now. And I wrote in caps, and it was more like, just do it for your sake. So yes, a sense of authority is definitely required when you're being didactic. But a lot of me has changed over these last 8 and 9 years. And I feel Buddhism is a part of my being, but you have to understand and be a little empathetic as well. So that is where I outgrew that idea of authority. And now I say it from my space, let others unravel whatever they want to understand through it. So I think that's the plant growing actually.
So you have evolved as a writer.
Yes,
9, 10
definitely.
years.
Definitely.
I think it's
Not
okay to
only, yeah, of course.
have a voice as an author,
Yeah.
just about the writing style, and it is good to see an author telling explicitly a different kind of style. Good. Yeah, you were saying something.
Yeah, I was saying that not only I think Buddhism, you have included a lot of elements of different other religions as well. From, you've quoted from Bible, as well as mythology. You have quoted from Buddhism, of course, the karma theory you have quoted. So there is such diverse context which you have brought over in this book. So I just wanted to know that how did you bring such amount of diversity in one writing? How did you plan it?
I think I owe it all to literature. Had it not been for it, it's difficult. So reading a Bible for a Hindu girl is not a common thing, unless you are chanced upon by some really backed up by some family who's into diversity. But literature has opened all the doors for me. Like mentally, emotionally, like I'm not vulnerable. I'm more accepting. And philosophically also, I feel it was a heavy influence. It's your prime teen years and you're reading so much about the country that you don't even belong to. So Western philosophy, I wouldn't say that it's greater than ours or not, but all I'm saying is it's more than what we already know about. So definitely it opened my philosophical ideas, and somewhere it also helped me understand that all the world's your stage, so limiting yourself is insane, I would say.
I think we can connect, Haimanti, right? Because
yes, absolutely.
A student. I am also a literature student. I also read Bible after pursuing, my literature, and I felt it was very liberating, and I feel really proud.
Like at least
I actually got
makes you aware, even if you're not practicing, it doesn't count. But being aware is very important.
I actually got the chance to read the Bible when I was young, because it was a convent school, and there were Sunday schools which were happening in my locality. So I used to go there just for the sake of passing time. So that's when I got in touch with Bible, and since then I had started reading. So
I think after reading Samiksha's works and after talking to her, I'm very much inspired to know more and explore about Buddhism.
Yeah,
Of course,
definitely.
yeah, it's very
It's a
interesting.
widely practiced philosophy,
Yeah.
and it's so beautiful. Like to grow in the ditch. I mean, so relatable. So
Right.
just that the philosophy has its own tenets. Like you need to attend meetings and all that. And as you grow up, you kind of withdraw from any kind of compulsive behavior. So I wouldn't say that I'm not religious, but I'm very practically religious. I do not follow anything which confines me to a certain
Yeah.
decorum. So it's all inside you actually. Everything is inside you. Yeah.
Would again like to add this, that Buddhism, Buddhism, this Lotus Sutra which Samiksha is talking about. I was going through a really low phase in my life, and at that point of time, a friend, which is also our college friend, who is also our college friend, I think Amrita. So she got me through this idea of this philosophy, and I started practicing it. And then later on, when I went to Delhi and all, I got in touch with the group and started chanting. But then, same with which happened with Samiksha, that you are compelled, like it's kind of a compulsion that you have to attend that. So
And I don't disregard it because the family members are physically, emotionally involved in the practice. So without
yes,
hurting anyone's sentiment, I
yes,
respect what they are enjoying. But maybe it was not for me to practically do that. I
yeah,
practice it in real life. There's a beautiful
Yeah.
quote, and I've also mentioned it in the book Didactic. It's a very didactic quote that there has to be a philosophy of the heart too. There has to be a
Right.
practice of the heart, and I think that is enough. You don't need to confine yourself to different ideas and
Yeah.
people and practices. You just need to practice what you believe in. That's it.
exactly.
That's right.
Yeah.
So, also tell us that how you choose the genres in which you plan to write. Like so far, you have written two books, and I feel both are non-fictional.
Yeah.
And I also wanted to know whether you have any plans to write a fiction book in the future.
I've already explored essay writing and I in the elevating human revolution. I don't think I wish to explore that anymore. Maybe when my hair turn white, I think
Yeah.
that is when I'd like to write some essays. But non-fiction is predominantly my area because I feel
Yeah.
the experiences of life, there's nothing more relatable than that for people, right? And for me
Right.
as an individual also, like I prefer if I read some real life narrations rather than fiction alone. But I think I'd like to venture into children writing sometime in
That's a
future.
very
I think you
interesting
need to be
genre.
very clean in your headspace for that, and it's a beautiful idea for
Genre.
me. It gives me tickles that if you can entertain children sometime.
Yeah.
So yeah, apart from that, I have a work lined up. So about that, let's see how it works out. Yeah. So it'll be
So
mostly non-fiction for me.
when can we expect that?
Let's hope
So
sometime this year. Yeah.
all the best for that.
Thank you.
Okay, so see, travel is a very embedded thing in your psyche. So I just wanted to know that you are very interested in travel literature. So are you planning to write some more travel stories or travelogues?
Uh, so that's about the next work that's lined up, and it's about a person who's very central in my life, and it's all the travel narratives, and it'll be mostly a short story collection. So I think it'll be something for everyone. Yeah, that's what's
Looking
lined
forward
up.
to it.
Interesting.
Yeah, so actually, we have already spoken about, talked about the genres. That's what I wanted to ask. But I just wanted to know the topics. How do you decide the topics? For example, you have spoken about predestination and such deeper themes and concepts. So how do you decide that yes, this is what I have to write? I found that your writing is very reflective. So how do you decide that this is what I'm going to write in these subjects?
Reflective in case of 30 Days with the Queen or with Elevating Human
I
Revolution?
felt while I was reading the later one, the Elevation Human Consciousness, and I felt, it's you have written about destiny. So do you believe in superpowers, destiny, and
So,
Let's
like I
start.
said, 9 years back, yes.
Yeah.
9 years later, I've come a very long way. So, emotionally, I feel that, see, it's more like, so one person tells you that my philosophy is, God above all. The other person tells you, work hard and get what you want in life. So, somewhere deep inside, when you hear to, like at that age, it was all good. I'm so secular. I know all the philosophies. It's just knowledge. Now, once you've lived these 9 years, you're like, oh no, it's a different world altogether, right? And you become so skeptic, in the age of, if you
Yeah.
know, if you've read about Enlightenment period of literature or the Western philosophy, it says that after all that God and didactism, there came a time of enlightenment around 16th century, and it talked about how people challenged the views of God being above all. They kind of were being scientific eventually because they led a life completely different from what was in the past. And in that process, I think even I grew along with that enlightenment period. I realized that there was a philosopher called David Hume, and he gave the idea of skepticism. So
Right.
today we generally use, I'm very skeptic about it. But what is that skepticism?
Yeah.
That skepticism is doubt.
Yeah.
The very fact that you doubt certain ideologies makes you a thinking being. And the fact that I became a thinking being. First, I read everything, then, I experienced life, and now I'm thinking about things. My philosophy or my style of writing is now influenced by my experience more than simply what I've read or what the philosophies state. So I'd say I've become more practical. Rather than just saying I believe in predestination, I'll have some ideology behind it, and I'll say, maybe some part of it, 70% is predestination, but 30% is your own work as well. So I'll definitely balance what I said before. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's very beautiful. It's very bold and brave to accept that you are evolving.
Yeah, yeah.
Because many people don't
Definitely.
accept it.
I mean, a
Being right.
19-year-old kid has hardly experienced life, right?
Of
So
course,
for
of
them,
course.
it's just accumulating data. It's like a research. You
Yeah.
accumulated data. Now I know what my research topic
Yeah.
is. So
And I
yeah,
think
you
this
have to live a life for that.
Yeah, and I think this skepticism, because I have also published my recently published my debut collection of poetry, and I feel what I had written before. So some of the poems, I felt, why did I write this? Or I now I feel I could have written it that way, or this was the right way. So I
Totally
think
agree. You
this is
shun away all your old work. Every
yeah,
time you're
yes.
talking about 30 days, I'm like cringing. Oh no, why did I write that?
Yeah, yes. So we evolve, I feel, and that's, as you said, that is a sign of being a thinking being.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to see our own journeys from
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
works when we are small. The way we write, that reflects that
Yeah.
how we were, and now we cannot relate to it because we have evolved, and that's so beautiful. Okay, Samiksha, can you tell me about your publishing journey? You have published 2 books at a very young age, and what are your future plans in writing and publishing? Can you please share?
The journey, publishing journey, I would say it began with a poem, like I talked about. The poem was Quest, and it was so beautiful for me. Like yesterday, I was just reading it. It's about 10 years back that I wrote the poem, and it's still so beautiful for me. Like you have to appreciate where you began, right? So when I was reading it, I was like, wow, this is fun. Oh, I wrote that. Was I that evolved at that time? And that was my first publication, I would say, when it got published in the college magazine. And after that, I ended up with a lot of journals. So I wrote, we began a journal of our own, which was called LJLF, and I published a couple of articles there also. So publishing journey has not been limited to books alone. I feel I tried different. I have tried different areas, and then of course blogging. Blogging was a life changing experience for me. Didactic blog is what I used to maintain in for the last 4 5 years until 2015, and until I called it off, I was getting a very good response. So that was also a good journey for me.
What was the
So
reason
once,
you? What was the reason
like I
you?
said, opinions changed, and by 2016, when I finally completed my masters, I realized that I don't think I relate to it anymore. And that was exactly the year, something has to, one door shuts and you have to open the other. So the other door was I joined a travel agency as a content writer, and it was completely new because literature and travel ultimately they merge, but nowhere are they similar. And I was
Right.
learning again a new phase, 4 years of traveling a lot and learning so much from the travel sphere that I started a blog of my own in 16, and I started documenting my travel journeys there. And it's by my own name, samiksha.com, and I still maintain it. So I think I love that space as much as I love any other book of mine, because it's the most
Yeah.
clean form of me there. It's as raw as it can be. So
You actually
blogging.
interact with your readers. I mean,
Sorry.
you can very quickly interact with your readers, and you can come to know
Absolutely.
that reactions.
Absolutely. So blogging was another space that I have enjoyed so far. And after that came 30 days. And 30 days was when I left that travel industry to join as a lecturer in the university. So it was a 1 year interim period where I just traveled. So every 2 months, I decided to travel somewhere with all the money that was left in the bank account out of working. And I think that has been the most liberating 1 year of my life, because you're not binded by any office, any superficial structure. And that is when 30 days came, and 30 days was a product of, extreme. It was like a coming of age for me. I got married last year, and in that space of until I got married, I think 30 days is all about me until then. So it's a very essential part of my, you say your Bildungsroman experience. So it's my coming of age. Yeah.
So I just wanted to add to what Hemanti had asked. Like, there is a lot of self-publishing versus traditional publishing kind of thing. How you should publish, whether you should publish on KDP or you should go for a, curated publishing services company, or you should stick to the idea of, getting it published through these big publishers, and you should wait for 6 months and a year and all for traditional publishing. So I just wanted to know how, in that part, when how you decided that how you would go about publishing, because I think your first book is published by KDP through
Yeah.
KDP.
So
Direct
both the
publishing.
books are on Amazon. So, but the
Yeah.
only difference between 30 days and Elevating Human Revolution was a period of 9 years, getting a decent readership. And what I did was I published few copies offline, and I published the copies as per the pre-orders. So a lot of friends and family who were, kind of reading or appreciating my writing back then, I kind of published some custom number of books for them.
Print
And
on
apart
demand.
from the e-copy, yeah,
Yeah.
e-copy was available to all, but the physical copy I did publish for a good number of people. And that is my break even, with publishing per se. So I've not approached any book publisher so far, but for the upcoming project, I am looking for publishers, and I'm also going to, go with a print version rather than just a e-copy. Yeah.
So now our last question, which is about like if you would like to give any tips or advice to the young writers and aspiring writers in their writing journey.
So, am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
So, my advice, okay, my advice would just be let things happen to you. I think, for any writer, we say that, oh no, this happened to me. I think that happened to you is a great way to put it down into words, right? So, a lot of people say, I'm so unfortunate. This thing happens to me all the time, and I'm one of those people, right? So, I kept thinking about that part of my life as an adventure now. Now, when I look back, I see, ki, thank God that happened. I could write about it. So it's more like let things happen to you, let bad things happen to you also, so that you have it's not just about content, it's about you have life to relate to people. And if
Right.
it doesn't happen to you, what would you share, right?
Yeah.
So life, let that happen. Also keep looking back, like a lot of us are very dissatisfied as writers. I feel keep looking back at what you used to write, maybe a poem, a piece of article, and see how far you've come. I think that's your growth parameter, and it is an essential thing. And apart from that, I think your real growth lies in consistency. So like I said, I can't do without a notepad and a book by my bedside. It's like that, it should be a part of your daily routine.
Right.
And there has to be monotony in it. So I think monotony is the key of my writing style. Apart from that, imagination and observation, definitely. You have to be very impressionable. Like you can't force it, but once you see something, feel all that you can for about that thing, like the holes on the driver's shirt, right? So that impression will take you far. It's not just the flair of writing, it's also how impressionable you are to things around you. So that's about it. Yeah.
So that was really helpful, Samiksha, and that was really lovely talking to you. And thanks for your time today.
Here. This was wonderful. Thank you for having me.
So we wish you all the best for all your writing endeavors which you are planning in future. And thank you for your time and talking to us.
Thank you, Almanti. Thank you. Thank you, Akila.
So friends, that's all for today.
Hope you enjoyed our today's session.
And tell us in the comment section below how you found today's author interview. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get all the notifications.
We will meet soon. Till then, stay safe, stay happy, and read more. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I think we can stop the recording.
Yeah, you can stop the recording.
Stop the recording.